Hello everyone and welcome back to the story of Sam Blackwell. At this point, we know how his story tragically ended, but there are two people who came up along the way that I want to learn more about. One of them, who I planned to do an epilogue on, was Agent Jefferson Gray, the man who murdered Blackwell. It turns out there's actually a decent bit of information about him when we explore the White Spring bunker. It also turns out that most of it is completely intertwined with the story of another character that I plan to explore, Thomas Eckhart, the former Secretary of Agriculture, leader of the Appalachian Enclave, and self-proclaimed President of the United States. In realizing this, I think it makes the most sense to tell his story along with Eckhart's. Otherwise, I'd just be making videos with a lot of repeat content, and that's no fun for anybody, so stay tuned for that series. It'll be coming in the not too distant future. With that out of the way, we can get into today's episode, focusing on the other person I want to learn more about. Just who was Sam Blackwell's inside source? Who was the mysterious T? Before we get too deep into all of this, let me make something totally clear. The game doesn't actually provide us with an indisputable way to identify this individual. We have to use our own detective skills, put two and two together, and make one big assumption, that T is actually a named character in the game at all. It's entirely possible that he isn't, that the developers never wanted this person to be identified in the first place. While that's certainly possible, that just isn't any fun, so I'm going on the assumption that this person is a character in the game, named in such a way that any player who wanted to could put the pieces together. We may find out one day that I'm wrong, so if that happens, don't shoot me. But for now, let's have some fun with this. I'll put the clues together and show you who I think T actually was, and even if I end up being wrong, it's going to be a hell of a story anyway. Before we learn about who I think our informant is, let's first get an understanding of what transpired inside the White Spring bunker not long after the bombs fell. We can find out from a White Spring surveillance recording documenting the entire horrifying affair.
White Spring, automated recording, 1.1.7.
Ladies and gentlemen, the news is not good. It is my sad duty to inform you the Secretary of the Treasury has passed. Acute radiation sickness, it seems. This, in addition to the unexpected severance of our connection to Raven Rock and the President, means our little enclave is without leadership. According to the rules of succession, outlined long before our entry into this bastion, that responsibility now falls to me. I acknowledge the pain you all must be feeling. I see it on your faces, and I feel it in my heart. Loved ones lost, colleagues gone. But now is not the time to allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by tragedy. This is the moment to recognize and seize the opportunity that lies before us. The world outside believes the war is over, that there are no more true Americans with the will to fight. They are wrong. We are going to fight. We will use this facility to continue the battle against our enemies, against communism, against all the wretched things that brought this war upon us. And we will, for once and for all, put an end to war. When we are victorious, there will be no more enemies left to stand against us. But of course, the rule of law still applies here, my brothers and sisters. The Enclave is the bastion of democracy and will remain so, I assure you. So then, let us vote. All in favor of using this facility and the resources of this land to continue the war that others believe lost, please move to the left side of the room. All who oppose, please move to the right. Well, there you have it. I'm sorry to see so many uncommitted to the cause of America. Mr. Gray here will help sort out accommodations for you all. Everyone else, please follow me down to the science wing.
Accommodations? What the hell is he talking about, Gray?
Not to worry, General. We have a plan for you all. Modus, seal the room.
The room is sealed.
What? What the hell is...
And there you have it. Immediately after the bombs fell, numerous government and military officials took shelter at the White Spring bunker, with Thomas Eckhart assuming command. His goal was to continue to wage war against the communists, and he did what he felt he needed to do to ensure that he'd be able to without resistance. He had everyone who disagreed with him gassed by none other than Jefferson Gray, the same man who murdered Sam Blackwell. We now know that in order to access the region's nuclear silos, Eckhart would need to have an accredited military general on his side. It turns out that just one general survived this purge, a General Harper. We can hear Eckhart discuss that in this surveillance recording.
White Spring, automated recording. 1.3.3.
48.
That's correct, sir.
And no generals other than Harper?
Correct. All the rest sided with Swafford and were removed.
Damn. Well, one is enough, I suppose. Leonidas saved democracy with 300 Spartans. Imagine the stories they'll tell about us when we do it with 48. Just make sure our scouts know to keep an eye out for any opportunities to expand our forces.
They'll be made aware, Mr. Secretary.
Otis,
Yes, Mr. Secretary?
General Harper is not to leave this facility, and he goes nowhere without an escort. Is that clear?
Crystal, Mr. Secretary.
This General Harper is who I think was Blackwell's informant before the war. He was a general, one of the few people who would have had access to the kind of classified information that was being shared with Blackwell before the bombs fell. So he's informed enough to be T. But what else do we know? Well, we can hear from the tone of Eckhart's voice that Harper probably isn't someone he trusts implicitly, that he's not likely someone who's been by his side through all of this. His orders to Modus to ensure that Harper doesn't leave and that he's escorted at all times only serve to reinforce that. If Harper was someone known to Eckhart to be a true believer, someone who would blindly follow his orders, then these measures would be unnecessary, or at least would have been dressed up a bit more nicely. Modus was ordered to not allow Harper to leave. Why would he want to leave if he was on board with everything? He was ordered to have him escorted, not protected. Why would that be necessary if Harper was a true believer? Perhaps Eckhart was just paranoid, which he was. But it seems clear to me that he didn't trust Harper specifically. He didn't trust him, and likely for a reason, but he did need him. In another terminal, we find a transcript of some dialogue between Eckhart and General Harper. Eckhart. Very well. We all know our parts then. Harper. I do have one question, Mr. Secretary. Eckhart. And that is? Harper. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the automated silos, they require a general of appropriate rank to be present. Just a general. Presidential authorization is not required. Eckhart: That is correct, General. Harper: And we're mobilizing a not insignificant number of men to achieve this goal. Santiago's men. Men I'm sure some of us may not fully trust yet. Eckhart: And you're asking why it is we're doing this. Harper: I'm asking why are we risking few and precious resources so you can call yourself president when it's not necessary for the mission. Eckhart: To the contrary, General Harper, it is quite necessary. All of us around this table understand the dedication required to accomplish our goals here, the sacrifice. But to ensure the loyalty of those out there, we cannot presume dedication alone will be enough. We require authority, and those soldiers and statesmen recognize only two great authorities, God and the President of the United States. And I don't know of an automated system we can use to make a God, so the latter will have to do. What does that interaction tell us? Well, it demonstrates once again that there wasn't very much trust between Eckhart and General Harper, with Harper questioning Eckhart's increasingly diabolical motives. But if this is in fact T, someone who tried to help Sam Blackwell uncover all this business before the war, why does he seem like he's going along with all of it now? Well, that's a good question, and it's one that I think has a very human answer. Just because Harper opposed Eckhart before the war and questioned him later doesn't mean that he's going to jump out in outright opposition to him at this point. Eckhart has all the power inside the White Spring. Let's assume that Harper is T and that he wants to stop Eckhart. Well, getting himself killed as a traitor isn't going to facilitate that, and that's all that would happen. With Eckhart in control of Modus, and with people like Agent Gray by his side, who will clearly murder anyone easily, nobody stands a chance. He's likely taking the "it's better to live to fight another day" stance, perhaps looking for opportunities to come later. Unfortunately for Harper, and for all of Appalachia, he never got that opportunity. Inside the medical wing, we find a new terminal entry and a follow-up surveillance recording. As we examine the patient archives, we see an entry for a General T. Harper. That's right, his first initial is T. This is the only place I could find referencing a first initial or first name for General Harper at all. Reading the entry, we can see medical status, deceased. Diagnosis, organ failure, acute radiation poisoning. Treatment procedure, resuscitation attempts unsuccessful. Additional notes, redacted per T. Eckhart. So Eckhart deleted any notes about his death. Still, if we move to yet another surveillance recording, we can learn a little more.
White Spring, automated recording, 6.2.1.
Modus, what's happened?
We're terribly sorry, Mr. President. We brought him here as quickly as we could. General Harper's last moments were, at least, peaceful.
What? You're finished? He's still warm. Shock him again.
Sir, I don't believe that's wise.
Do it!
No response.
Again!
Sir, the General is dead.
Damn it. Modus, the bunker's promotion system. Can you override it?
No, sir.
So we'll need a new general to get into the silos.
Yes, sir.
Burn the body. Have all the unassigned soldiers rallied at dawn.
And that's the end of that. General Harper died from acute radiation poisoning, leaving Eckhart without a general to access the nuke silos. I'm assuming it was during a trek through the highly irradiated portion of a silo, but it's also possible that Eckhart just got tired of his questioning and found a way to have him killed, hence the redacted medical notes. In conclusion, I do think this General T. Harper was in fact Blackwell's informant. Going through every piece of information I could find, there were only 2 characters in the game who would have both had access to the kind of information that was passed to Blackwell and had a name or initial beginning with the letter T. One was Thomas Eckhart, and it just wouldn't make much sense for him to be Blackwell's informant. The other is, of course, General T. Harper. Everything we learned about the relationship between Harper and Eckhart inside the bunker only serves to reinforce my suspicion that he was Blackwell's T. Now, in the real world, a confidential informant wouldn't likely use their real name or initials as their code name. But this isn't the real world. It's Fallout. It's a game. And part of the fun of that game is digging through lore and speculating about identities and stories. If General Harper's first initial had been, J, then nobody would ever arrive here. The developers would have to leave some kind of breadcrumb leading to the character and leaving the rest to us to speculate on. It's entirely possible that I'm wrong on this. Maybe Blackwell's informant doesn't even exist in the game, and the letter T is just a reference to Todd Howard. Perhaps I'm just connecting dots that aren't really there. But you know what? That's kind of part of the theme of Fallout 76. A world where conspiracy theories abound and are largely true. Underground government schemes, cryptids, aliens, you name it, it's there. So why not engage in a bit of conspiracy theorizing of our own? And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the story of Sam Blackwell. I hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so I know you want to see more lore videos. I'll be honest, they take a lot of work to put together, but if I know there's even a couple of people out there enjoying them, I'll keep making them. Stay tuned to the channel. The full story of Thomas Eckhart, where I'll also explore Agent Jefferson Gray, will be coming in the not too distant future. Till next time, I'm Fisty McRib.